Welcome back to Jamaica Made Me Do It. Total trigger warning, this episode might have you tearing up by the end. So, after my first 2 trips to Jamaica back in 2003, if this is your first time watching, I knew I had a problem. I could not stop thinking about the place. But also something else was bothering me. I'd had this incredible experience twice now, and I hadn't shared any of it with the most important person in my life. My son, Curtis. He was 11 at the time, and I kept thinking, it isn't really fair for me to keep jetting off to Jamaica while we hadn't even had a family vacation together in a couple of years. The problem was, what 11-year-old wants to go to Jamaica over, let's say, somewhere like Disneyland? See, in Jamaica, there are no rides, there's no video game arcades, no fancy kid resorts, at least not on my single mom budget. So if we went, we'd probably be surviving off coconuts, while every other kid his age would be hitting the all-inclusive buffets. So I started planting little seeds. I'd casually show him pictures from my past couple of trips to Jamaica. I'd tell him stories, never really pushing though, because Curtis was the type of kid who would say yes just to make me happy. And I didn't really want that. If he were to say yes, I wanted it to be because he wanted to. Then one day, completely out of nowhere, he was looking at my photos of the cliff divers at Rick's Cafe, and he was like, that actually looks pretty cool. Inside, just at that little spark of positivity inside, my soul like exploded with excitement. On the outside though, I tried to keep it cool and cash and act like I didn't care. So we sat down and we had an honest conversation. I told him exactly what Jamaica was and what it wasn't. It is amazing beaches, incredible food, wonderful people, but no amusement parks, no expensive attractions, no constant entertainment, just a totally different way of life. So while Curtis was still thinking about it, I may or may not have been secretly stalking airline prices. And then, like Jamaica always seemed to do back then, the universe stepped in. An incredible Easter airfare seat sale popped up. So I had to ask Curtis, like right away, if he was ready to make a decision. And he said, let's just do it, Mom. I don't think I have ever clicked the buy now button faster in my entire life. So now on to the hard part though. We couldn't afford an all-inclusive, and to be honest, I didn't even really want one. Sure, it might be easier traveling with a child, but I'd already fallen in love with the more local way of life in Jamaica. So together, we scoured the internet until we found these tiny beach cabins in Negril called Lazy Days. It was adorable. They sort of reminded us of our family cabins out in the Canadian Rockies back here at home. Very rustic, very simple, but totally perfect for us. I have to admit though, the closer we got to departure day, the more nervous I became. I recall feeling super stressed out about whether Curtis would hate me for bringing him to such an unfun bummer of a destination, or whether he'd find as many ways to love it as I did. Would he see what I saw in Jamaica, or would he be bored to death? Most of my burning questions were answered the instant we stepped off the airplane and onto the tarmac. There were no boarding bridges at Montego Bay Airport back in 2004, and so you literally walked off the airplane onto the runway. And the rest of my questions about whether he would love it or not were answered on the bus ride to our cabins. I will never forget that 90-minute bus ride through crowded towns on roads so narrow you can reach out and touch oncoming vehicles. Jamaican roads are pure chaos, especially getting through the town of Lucy. If you go from Mobe to Negril, going through Lucy is such an experience. I had never paid much attention to the madness before because I wasn't as concerned about impressing anyone, but this time I had desperately hoped to impress my son. Curtis remained wide-eyed and silent the entire ride, taking in everything just as I had done a year earlier. He may only have been 11, but he was very perceptive for a kid his age, and I could tell that he was ready for a cultural experience. We finally arrived in Negril and turned into Lazy Days, and I scanned the property praying that he wasn't going to be disappointed. 2 small cabins off to the right resembled what I had seen online, and in real life they looked rustic and adorable from the outside, and I had my fingers crossed that they were going to be tolerable on the inside. The little cabins, there were 2 of them. They stood side by side on this huge shared wooden deck, and there was a picnic table in between, and then a homemade bamboo rope swing hanging out front. It was really cute. And then we were given our keys, and the moment of truth arrived. I unlocked my door to see what was inside and immediately thought, oh shit. These cabins were primitive at best, like board walls, double bed with basic sheets, bar fridge, ceiling fan, and then a hanging wooden rod instead of a closet. So there was just a hanging wood rod with some hangers on it. That's it. I walked over to check on Curtis. He would be staying in his own cabin right beside mine, and I was fully expecting panic. But instead, he was already like sprawled across his bed, absolutely thrilled that he had his own little man cave. He'd already unpacked his clothes and his Discman. Remember those? Remember the Sony Discman? And then he had his ears plugged into his music. So I think he was going to be okay. And topping off our list of primitive non-luxuries, it was an outdoor shower. There was no indoor shower at this place. I distinctly recall acting like bathing outside was going to be so cool, like hoping I might radiate some reassurance for Curtis, but I was low-key dreading the idea of being naked without a door and 4 walls. But my fears were quashed on day 1 of experiencing bathing out in the open. Like, the absolute worst that could happen would be a coconut dropping onto your head. Are there even any statistics on the probability of that happening? After my first shower, I was sold. I was totally sold. Palm trees overhead, reggae drifting through the breeze, and a little peeping Tom lizard sitting on the fence watching me bathe every day. It felt like filming a herbal essence commercial. It was simply magical. One evening we were at the beach. I was sitting at a beach bar and I looked over and Curtis had wandered down near the water with an Old Rasta Man. And the 2 of them were sitting there carving wood together by the sea as the sun was going down. And as a Canadian mom, every alarm bell should have been ringing that he wandered off with a rando guy. But instead, the bartender just smiled and he said, "He's good, man." It was a really beautiful feeling, allowing him to claim his independence as a boy by bonding through some manly activities. Curtis was fatherless his whole life, and that moment was just something I could never give him. And it was really just beautiful. Then came Rick's Cafe. This was the place that changed everything for Curtis. If you're not familiar with Rick's Cafe, it's a bar way up in the cliffs of Negril, and it's famous for just one thing: cliff diving. This was the one thing that I believe made him want to come to Jamaica, were my photos of cliff jumpers from my previous trips. I think that Curtis believed he was Jamaican within about 10 minutes of being at Rick's. He wasted no time taking his first jump, and then his second, and then his 90th, and so on and so on. He was out there scaling the rocks. He was swimming with the locals. He was cliff jumping like he was born for this. And I just stood there thinking, where has this child been hiding all his life? On this trip, we visited Rick's Cafe, I think 4 out of 7 days, breaking only for one day when he had sunstroke and a couple of plain old tired days. And then something happened that I'd never expected. Jamaica kidnapped my child. One morning I woke up super early and I went over to his cabin to check on him. And when he didn't answer my knock on the door, I assumed he was still sleeping. And so I went back to my cabin to snooze some more. And about an hour or so later, he came knocking on my door announcing that the restaurant down the beach wanted me to go there and pay for his breakfast. That little shit was up and out, filling his belly long before I was. He wasn't even in his cabin the first time I went and knocked. Turns out he had walked down to the same beach bar that we had been frequenting in the evenings for dinner. He had himself a big old breakfast, and then he told them that his mom would be coming to pay. He was now on a first name basis with most of the staff who had been serving us on previous days on our vacation. And one thing I learned about Jamaica in subsequent years is that they genuinely live the "it takes a village" lifestyle. People take care of each other, especially tourists and especially kids. And so watching the village, adopt my son was a beautiful example of that. I realized then he hadn't disappeared. He just became completely comfortable and felt like he belonged, which is what I wanted all along. I want to wrap this up with a funny little story. So every morning of our vacation, we could hear a strange bird call somewhere in the trees around our cabins. It sounded kind of like wah, 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 wah. Like we heard it every single day and we laughed every time we heard it. So much that even later in his life, we would send WhatsApp voice notes to each other, just making the sound. Like I would send a note going, whoa, 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 just to make each other laugh. I've been back to Jamaica dozens of times since this trip of ours in 2004. And Curtis also did come back with me 7 years later when he was 18. But somehow nothing ever topped that first trip with him. Those little cabins, the outdoor shower, his breakfast disappearance stunt, the cliff jumping, and that stupid bird we imitated for years. Looking back on all of it now, I wasn't just introducing my son to Jamaica. I was watching Jamaica introduce me to a whole side of my son that I had never seen before. And that's a gift that I will carry for the rest of my life, especially now that he has passed on to a brighter life in the stars. Before I close out this episode, I had to come back and say that my son would roll over in his grave right now, and if he wasn't already dead, he would die knowing that I'm on the internet on YouTube going, whoa, 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 because that moment was like a core moment between him and I from the time he was 11 till the time he was 28 and died. So Curtis, if you are listening, I just want you to know, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm Christy. This is Jamaica Made Me Do It, and we will see you next time. Little more.